Batman is infamous for being tough on crime and devastatingly violent on criminals. Bruises, broken bones, concussions, and lifelong crippling injuries are just some of the injuries he has dealt out over the years. And given that, it can be easy to forget sometimes that he is a hero, and a hero's greatest desire isn't to beat up a villain, but to reform them to the side of good. There is nothing better to a hero than a prodigal villain turning his life around. And although Batman doesn't do this to every villain, of course, he has managed to help reform a lot of them, and we're going to go over some of them and how he did it. Dick Grayson. Now, this one may actually be a bit of a surprise. After all, it's usually Jason Todd who was the street criminal that Batman took in and reformed and moulded into being a new hero. But in the latest Arkham VR game, Dick Grayson isn't just a petty criminal, but he's actually a lieutenant for the Rat King, and fights Batman as one of the bosses. And though you don't see his face to begin with, there are clues it's Grayson, from his general body shape to the fact that he fights with two Eskrima sticks, which is much like the ones that Nightwing later uses in the Arkham Knight game. And of course this helped a lot of us to guess that it might be him. But the game makers decided that just having a few hints wasn't good enough, and so they released a special end scene where Bruce Wayne visits Dick Grayson in his apartment. And we see firsthand that he is there to take him in and convert him from villain to a hero. And I think you'll agree, he succeeds triumphantly. Now, admittedly, Grayson is a teen who is lacking in direction and just needs a mentor. And this is the classic story of a kid falling in with the wrong crowd.
Sorry it had to be this way, but it was you or us. The rats took me in when no one else would. I couldn't let you stop them.
But even still, Batman could have just, not bothered with him, sent him back to juvie or jail, however old he is at this point, and then just got on with his life.
I need to find him somehow.
Sure you want to do that? That boy's pain must be unbearable. What do you think will happen if you contact him? And which you are we talking about?
But instead, Batman took the time to help him, to basically adopt him and train him. Now obviously we all know that is normally what Dick Grayson's story is, except in this case, he's actually a villain being reformed and not just being taken in because the parents are both dead. And I think this might actually be the best example of how reforming a villain can actually be the greater good in the long run. I mean, just think about how many people that Dick Grayson has saved over the years. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe even hundreds of millions. I mean, the guy saved the planet a few times, so billions might actually be on the cards. Needless to say, that is very impressive. And Batman does do this kind of thing more often than you'd think, but they don't usually go over it that much. I guess just having Batman punch people is more exciting, so it does sell better, so they tend to focus on this. But he has helped a lot of people, including Plastic Man. Now in the show Batman the Brave and the Bold, we see the best example of this. Now in this, Plastic Man is still Eel O'Brien, a low-level henchman for the low-level villain, Kite Man. And on a heist, Batman stops them, but in the process, O'Brien is exposed to some chemicals and gains plastic powers. And Batman believes that he can be reformed, and so he convinces him to testify against Kite Man, thus sending him to prison. And then Batman speaks to the jury on behalf of O'Brien, and he gets them to go easy on him, and even accepts responsibility for him going forward, as he is going to train Eel O'Brien as a hero. And of course he does become the hero, Plastic Man. And though it is slow going with him, I mean, it is slow going in places, he has a few relapses as Plastic Man and goes back into his criminal ways. True, he's only stealing from other criminals, but he's still stealing, when he should be recovering stolen goods. But he does improve, and he gains Batman's trust, and he goes on to be a successful hero. Now true, he is often the comic relief, but he is still a criminal who reformed into a hero. And he may not be considered the best hero in the world, but he's still a member of the Justice League, and he helps out on many occasions, and goes on to save quite a lot of lives. And all of this only happens because Batman believed in him and decided to put in the work of helping him. And so he stepped up and he stepped forward on his behalf, and he mentored him into becoming a hero. Joker. Now this one is dependent on the choices you make throughout the Batman Telltale games. But there is actually a series of choices that ends with Bruce Wayne converting his greatest enemy to the light. And the Joker not only chooses to be a hero, but even saves Batman's life, and he fights alongside him.
Come on, partner! Time for some justice!
This is a full conversion that is surprising as hell. I mean, this was a well-written show and you didn't see a lot of things coming, but this was a real shocker because this is the Joker we're talking about. Now, of course, if you do make the wrong choices, then Joker will become the Joker we know and loathe. I mean, I say wrong, it's up to you really what you want to do, but obviously him being evil, probably not as good as him being good. But if anything, I say the fact that he can go either way in this really shows how much impact Bruce Wayne has on him, or rather can choose to have on him. I mean, he can just ignore him and just let him be the Joker, or he can step in and help him be a hero, moulding him to a greater good. And this one, more so than any of the others I've mentioned, goes to show just what Batman is capable of if he applies himself, and tries to actually reform his villains rather than just sending them to prison, or Arkham Asylum, which is basically the same thing. And all he has to do is basically just make the more empathic choice. It won't always work, of course, but it works more often than you'd think. And of course, I do have to say that the Joker isn't fully reformed. He is still quite mentally ill. So he is still full of chaos, even when he's trying to do the right thing. He doesn't necessarily do the right thing, he might do something a bit manic. Because when you're that mentally ill, you can't just turn it off like flicking a light switch. It's a bit more complex than that. But still, Batman has got him on the right path. It's just that his conversion is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. He does also kind of reform the Joker in the comics. Sort of. There's one where the Joker is killed, but unfortunately, Batman needs to resurrect him. Now, some might say that it's still not worth it, considering it's the Joker we're talking about, but Batman decides that it is. And when he uses a Lazarus Pit to bring the Joker back, Joker comes back sane. He is a sane Joker who is truly horrified at the memories of the things he has done, because he's got all the Joker's memories, of course. And of course, that means that he is completely reformed, and he immediately helps Batman to defeat Ra's al Ghul. Now, sadly, the effect of the Lazarus Pit is only temporary. It sort of gives you a type of clarity for a while after you've used it, but it fades rather quickly. And when it does fade, Joker returns to being insane. And then, of course, goes on to kill a lot of people. So Batman kind of reforms him, but not really, and even then it's only for an hour or so. Clayface. Now, this one is arguably the most impressive. Well, next to the Telltale Joker one. Although this is mainstream Clayface, so again, it might actually be more impressive. And basically, in the main DC continuity, Batman was able to get Clayface to join the Bat family, which was quite a shock to me, and many others, I imagine. And to be honest, I always thought it made, well, no real sense. It kind of came out of nowhere. But basically, Clayface joins up with the Bat family, and sort of becomes a member. Many would say he's not a true member, as he doesn't form a real kinship with them, but he does train and fight alongside them, so they do get close to a certain extent. Though in fairness, he does end up eventually leaving the Bat family, so you could say he's not fully redeemed because, he came, he did some good, then he kind of left. But I would still say that it does have a really profound change on the inside, and becomes a much better person. Plus, he doesn't exactly leave the Bat family. It's more that everyone is perceiving him to be dead, so he kind of leaves to get some space on his own. I mean, he never really wanted to be a hero, and he never really wanted to be a villain either. I mean, he was just an actor that got his DNA scrambled, and suddenly he became sentient clay. I mean, that really changes things. So he's not really good, he's not really bad, he's just kind of confused and making the best of it as he can. But still, Batman could have just left him to rot in Arkham Asylum, but instead, he gave him a chance to turn his life around, and Clayface took it, becoming a better person for it along the way. I mean, basically, with all of the villains that get reformed, it's really just that Batman gives them the chance. I mean, they have to choose to take it, of course, which is very important, because a lot of them do say no. But still, on Batman's part, it seems that reforming a villain means just giving them a chance. That's basically it, and waiting till they're ready to take it.
Bruce, you once said you trusted me like a brother. I need you to trust me now. I need a chance to prove myself.
And lastly, I was going to make a small joke about how, out of all of Batman's rogues gallery, Clayface is definitely the one to be reshaped, given his power set. That's not the joke, incidentally, that's kind of my point. I decided to leave that joke to you. So feel free to put your best Clayface joke in the comments. Harley Quinn. Now, in the White Knight universe, there are several big differences in continuity to the main DC timeline, and Harley is at the centre of a few of them. The one in this case being that when the Joker was going to kill Jason Todd, Harley went to tell Batman where he was, and then Batman stormed into the place to save them, only to find out that he was too late. Basically, Jason wasn't dead though, he just left. The Joker just let him go, and Jason figured, you know what, screw this lifestyle, I'm out. Something about having a clown torture and nearly murder you really put him off the whole cape and cow lifestyle, and so he left Gotham to start a new, less violent life. Now, as for Harley, up until this point, she had been exactly the type of villain you'd expect her to be, and thoroughly devoted to the Joker. But it was at this point that she decided enough was enough, and she left the Joker. Although he did find himself a replacement Harley soon after, but that's not really here or there. And in all fairness, Batman didn't really do much with Harley. She was already on the road to redemption herself, but he did allow her to take this route. And by that I mean he didn't try and get her persecuted to the full extent of the law or judge and condemn her. Instead, he simply recognised that she was improving and quietly encouraged it. And eventually, she does actually completely reform, even settling down and having kids. So it does work. But again, it was more about her wanting to reform than him helping her to reform. And of course, in the Harley Quinn series, Harley turns into a hero, or at the least an anti-hero. It's never really clear. But at one point, she does fight crime alongside the rest of the Bat family. Now, admittedly, Batman is in prison at this point, and that's actually why she joins, as she knows that they need the extra help now that they've lost the patriarch of the Bat family. And the Bat family could have rejected her doing this. Of course, doing that would immediately send her back to being a villain. So instead, they were patient. Or at least semi-patient with her. I mean, some of them did really want to get rid of her, but the fact that Batman was in support of it, well, they kind of just let it happen. And then they quietly allowed her to reform to the side of the Angels. But of course, she doesn't really reform to the side of the Angels, she kind of just ends up in the middle doing a bit of bad and good. It's kind of what an anti-hero is, after all. But the point was, she only had the courage to do all of this because of Batman's previous interactions with her, which are not that big, really. Again, all he has to do is encourage her in small ways, and she does the rest. I mean, it was really Poison Ivy who set her on this course to begin with, and Batman just helped out a little bit along the way. And of course, this is combined with the fact that Harley isn't evil. Not really. She just fell in love with the wrong guy, and she went down the wrong path. So she doesn't actually want to be a bad guy, not really, and all she needs is just a little bit of nudging in the right direction. And all Batman actually needs to do in this process is just give her the room to reform and step back and let it happen. Give her the chance and let her do the rest. I mean, that really is the only way to reform anyone. And of course, I have to mention what is probably Harley's greatest redemption, which is of course in the Injustice universe, where she becomes a full-on hero and even a member of Batman's rebellion, and later the very Justice League itself. Though again, Batman did next to nothing here, not really. Harley just had to get away from the Joker, and she dramatically improved just by being apart from him. Seriously, it was that easy. Codependency's a bitch. But with that being said, if Batman hadn't allowed her to join his rebellion, or kept her around as a Justice League member, well, who knows what would have happened. She could have fallen in love with another psycho and become a villain again, or it's possible that her version of justice could be really twisted and she goes murder crazy on criminals trying to sort things out. But because Batman has allowed her to work alongside him, he can keep an eye on her and make sure she is heading down the right path. I mean, like I've said, the main thing he has to do to reform a criminal is to give them a way of doing it and then supporting them on this path. I'm sure there's a lot of criminals in the real world who would love to be able to do that, but unfortunately, once you're labelled as a bad egg, it's very hard to get that labelling switched.
I know I'm the new guy, but you really trust Harley?
She's a different person since Joker died. Mostly.
And those are the villains that Batman has reformed, or helped to reform, and mentored into becoming heroes, and productive members of society, for the most part. Now personally I say the best one is Plastic Man, as he was a fully fledged adult criminal whom Batman was able to help reform into a famous hero. And sure, you could say Dick Grayson's also a famous hero, but at the end of the day he was a teenager who just needed some better direction. And quite frankly, he got that, he got on the right path, and that was that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still amazing that Batman was able to reform him like this. But at the same time, Grayson was younger than Plastic Man and at an age where he was more impressionable, and was more likely to be receptive to what Batman had to teach him. Whereas Plastic Man was older, a career criminal, and stuck in his ways. But still, Batman was able to bring someone who was so far down the wrong path back to the light. And that's what makes it so impressive. Sure, turning the Joker and the others is good, but Plastic Man became a proper Justice League level hero. I mean, going from somewhere that dark to that light, well, personally I just think that's very impressive. But what do you think? Do you agree that Plastic Man was the most impressive one of these? Or do you prefer a different one entirely? Be sure to let us know in the comments, along with any other villains that you know that Batman has reformed that you think are equally as impressive. And I'd just like to quickly remind everyone that we have some merchandise available on our store, and to say thanks to all of you who have donated to the Needle Mouse Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.